Welcome, everyone. This is the Soul Over Survival podcast. It's a brand new podcast with a brand new format. I've had the Follow Your Path podcast for 4 years, over 125 episodes, and it's been a while since I published one. And this is the perfect time to come back. It's a different format. It's a different way that I'm doing it. This Soul Over Survival podcast is really here to speak to the heart of humanity. Right now, we're going through the biggest transition any of us have ever experienced in our lifetime. And so many things are happening. So many things are evolving so quickly. And within us, so many old constructs and patterns of survivalism are dying. And it's a tough process. There's no sugarcoating it. It's a death of so many aspects of what we thought we knew, who we thought we were, the systems that maybe we previously relied on, the parts of ourselves that maybe previously we relied on, aka the ego. All of that is crumbling to the floor. And it creates a lot of instability when that occurs. People get trapped and stay in that instability. And I know this very well because that's what happened to me. When you start to really wake up to the truth inside of yourself and you start to see reality from a much different lens, it's very exciting. It's very empowering at first, but then the destabilization comes in. And without proper integration, that can drive people further into patterns of fear, where they grip onto what they've known even tighter because of the instability. A good example of this is I'm a huge proponent of psychedelics. I do psychedelic therapy with clients. It's been a massive catalyst and tool in my own life. But I can tell you this, if there's no integration process for peak experiences like that, it for sure is more harmful than good. It can give you a peak. It can give you this beautiful preview of who you are. You can have this wonderful connection with your soul. And then you go back to your day-to-day life, and that can be extremely challenging because now you have a greater understanding of the truth, but you're looking at the echo of an old reality, and it's hard to deal with sometimes. Then you can get a little bit confused. You can get a little bit like, oh, was I imagining that? Was it a dream? Was that not really how things are? Because the reality around you looks so concrete, right? And then there's like this internal push-pull within yourself. You're unstable. You're on shaky ground, and that is how this works. This is the caterpillar going into the chrysalis mode to become the goo, to dissolve to the old identity of who you were, become the butterfly that's always been within you, okay? This is where the caterpillar can start to refuse to become the butterfly as it's just like about to enter this chrysalis. And even when it starts to turn to goo, it's like, no, I don't want that. I'm going to cling to the familiar. I'm going to cling to what's known, right? And there's grieving involved with this. There's facing all of your deepest fears involved with this. And importantly, right, we have had thousands and thousands of years of genetic coding all around survival, all around physical, keeping your body safe, making sure there's not threats in your physical environment, clinging to your tribe for warmth, for safety. And that's how things had to be for a long time. We've now reached a point where that's no longer needed. We've evolved consciously to take care of those external threats. But yet that's still living inside of us. And that is shaping our everyday decisions. That is shaping our identity. And you see it everywhere, right? So many systems in place are geared towards survival. We have governments in place that rely on the masses being in that place of survival where we give our power away and ask for leadership to things outside of us. Now, that system worked for a while, but now that we're leaving that, it's not going to work. Like mathematically, it cannot work to a large number of people who are now entering that space of self-governance and inner authority, where the outer systems of government have to reflect that, or else it's not going to work. It has to be for the good of the people. It has to be truly for the good of the planet, for the human beings, and it can't have any distortion and separation in it. So, of course, it has to collapse. And inside of us, that internal structure that is around the false self, around the traumatized, wounded ego, that has to fall too. Because, and many of you listening, you know this is a concept, right? Most of your identity is simply based on protection mechanisms that you learned as a child to fit in, to get loved, to be accepted, to really survive, like with your peer groups, with your mom and dad, and how things were at home. That's the base of our former identity, or in a lot of ways, current identity that's dismantling. And again, you can know that at a conceptual level, but when it really starts to happen, it's a big process, right? You're going to have to give up a lot of things. You're going to have to give up certain friendships, relationships, jobs, things that just aren't in alignment with the truth of who you are. And people would rather hold on to that than let go and, enter that period of being in the unknown for a little bit, because you don't realize, and it's difficult to trust from that place that everything's going to work out, that you're actually going to attract all of the people, the places, the situations, the opportunities that are in alignment with that new frequency that you just created space for by letting go of those old things. It's hard to trust that at first, right? And so this is where your connection with God, with Source, with the universe really becomes paramount, because if that connection is shaky and wobbly, everything else is going to be, because you've got to have that as you walk into the unknown, as you walk into the period of your life that is the wandering desert period that the Bible highlights, right? When you cross the Red Sea, when you leave the lands of Egypt and the rule of Pharaoh, which is the ego, it's the mind of slavery, it's the mind of getting orders from things outside of you to tell you what to do and tell you who to be. Right? It's like we want to walk away from that so much, but yet when we start to cross that Red Sea, which is our nervous system, which is the old story, the chemistry, the memory in our cellular biology, that's like, don't do that, you're going to die. It makes you want to run back. And even though you hate being under the rule of Pharaoh and that mental slavery, it feels more comfortable, right? So this is a period where so many people are starting to cross the Red Sea, and you're in that place of like, yeah, the wandering desert when you get to the other side, and you're landing, right? You're just starting to recalibrate to this new place where your sense of self is shaky. The world around you is a little bit shaky. It's like there's confusion. It's like, what is real, what's not? Am I allowed to? Do I have permission to go towards my dreams and my desires, and to keep connecting to that part of me that brought me across that Red Sea, that impulse that told me, okay, now is the time to leave Egypt. Now is the time to leave that mental slavery and find truth, find who you are, right? And there's that inevitable period, and I know this so well because you can drag this part out, right? When I was in that part, my nervous system was very unstable, and I was living out of my car, and every morning I woke up, it was like I barely had any sleep. I'm like, wow, if my car gets a flat tire, if I get like a parking ticket, if I can't register like all these different things, I was like, my life is over. I was walking on a very tight rope where with no money in my bank account, or it was overdrawn, and I'm having to rely on Uber every day to even have money to eat. It was a tough scenario, but that was the training grounds. That was where I really got to establish this new place of like, you know what? I am here to end the addiction of reliance on things outside of me and giving power away and emotional charge to things outside of me. Like, this is an old echo, and I'm keeping my focus on that. I'm not going to let myself fall under the spell of the outside telling me who I am and what I need to do. I'm following my heart, and I'm trusting God. I'm trusting Source. If I go down, fine, but I'm trusting Source on the way down. And as you'll find, and as many people have found, that You get what you need. You are protected. You are provided for. And it's the illusion that you're not that just makes that part more challenging. And that's where the ego starts to like grip really tightly, right? It's like it's starting to lose a sense of control to the car that it's been driving, your vessel, right? Your body. Your wounded, fragmented ego has been trying to drive this thing the whole time. And now the soul's coming in and it's saying, hey, I can take that from you. But it doesn't want to give that up because it thinks it's the only way to survive. I've had to do this the whole time. Who the fuck are you? Get out of here. I'm not just going to give up control. Like, trust me, I've been here the whole time. Where have you been? Right? Because we lost that as children. You fall into the amnesia. You fall into the forgetfulness to play the game. Right? And now because it's really that impulse from the child archetype within you, the magical child, where all of your sense of play, curiosity, exploration, creativity, imagination, it all comes from there. To pretend like that's not within you and then that doesn't come from that, all those things is very silly, right? That is why inner child healing is so important right now. And so many adults are in the pattern, which is tied to survival, of trying to mentally navigate these times that we're in. They're trying to mentally bulldoze over their fears or avoid them altogether, intellectualize them, not feel the emotions going on that are coming up to be felt and released. And I want you to know I'm saying all of this from fucking this up for a long time and spinning my tires and not getting anywhere for a long time because I was trying to use those old mental coping skills in a time where that's just not going to work anymore. Your intuition, the feminine, has to lead the way. Do you think it's a surprise that we've seen the rise of the feminine? We've seen this with women. We've seen this with so many different things all over the planet, and it's not a gender thing. It's consciousness, and it's leading us to that place of, hey, your feminine, which is intuition, which is a relaxed nervous system, which is creativity, which is a sense of inner knowingness where you can relax into the truth and you're feeling your way through life. And of course, your mind is a part of that, but the two are working together, but that part's leading. It's not just the mind trying to do mental navigation because that's the part that's going to keep you stuck. It's going to keep you trapped. Again, something I know very, very well. I've always been this kind of cerebral, overanalyzing type of person that I learned early on to value my intellect because that would get me good grades in a report card. That would get me more love and acceptance from my parents. I would feel like I was worth more, right? And our whole model was based on that. So the intellect has been a huge thing for me, and that's how I got through a lot of my life, and now it's not serving me in that way. Feeling my feelings, listening to my intuition, prioritizing my peace, and creating is what I'm allowing to lead now. That's the feminine. That's the part that is coming in to lead the way. And so our systems are going to then reflect that. It's not going to reflect that, when you hear about the patriarchy, I know for me in my mind, I was like, oh yeah, this male dominant driven society that is all about blah, blah, blah. And I didn't realize I was kind of still genderizing it. And I didn't realize that it was like, oh, this is universal. This is consciousness. This is that polarity, the magnetism is starting to take the wheel of the car instead of the overextended tyrant-like ego mind, which is masculine, which is I'm going to dominate, force, and control. That's just not going to work anymore. And you're all seeing it. We're all seeing it, right? When you try to do that, it doesn't work out. Yeah? So it's a beautiful time. But if you're trying to play by the old rules, you're gonna find a lot of resistance, and there's gonna be a lot of suffering in that. And already with the things going on in the planet and the things that are coming to light, there's a lot of heartbreak, there's a lot of grief, there's a lot of heaviness and a lot of density, and it makes it really hard to access your joy and your inner child, right? Because the outside world isn't feeling very safe. And there's all these existential threats like AI taking people's jobs and, what am I going to do? And again, those are the things that make the ego want to grip tighter. And the only way through this birth canal, right, is to, as much as you can, be taking mindful breaths. For sure, you got to be meditating, because if you're not meditating, you're in the old pattern, and you're gonna do the mental thing and the masculine thing of trying to hustle and grind, and it's not going to get you anywhere. And then that's going to be frustrating, and then that's going to put you into a coping pattern to get away from that frustration and that shame that nothing's working. And that's the feedback loop that we got to break out of. It's so important during these times to break out of that feedback loop. That's the survival pattern, right? We're transcending that now. This is about creating. This is about expressing who you are. This is about speaking your truth. This is about leaning in and feeling everything that needs to be felt. So meditation is going to be the thing that creates space that allows you to do that, right? The ego is going to hate it. It's going to be like, no, you don't have time for that. Like, you got to go do this thing. Like, this isn't getting you anywhere. And you got to be able to notice that voice, that narrator, that's not you. The real you is like, sit your ass down so we can align with the true nature of who you are. This is the tithe. This is giving your 10%, which you could say is your conscious mind, so you can access the 90%, which is the unconscious mind, which is where all the patterns are. And it's where God is. It's where the divine is inside of you. It's in your body, right? It's in the subconscious. And you've got to give up your 10% and shut it down so that you can come to the now moment, to presence, and have access to it. That's how you change the radio dial. That's how you go from the left brain to the right brain. You literally change your state on an electrical level, on a scientific level, from beta to alpha or delta, right? And when you're in those places, that's when you can start creating. That's when you can start imagining the chosen self instead of the reactive, conditioned, wounded self that your ego formed as a child, right? Only from there can you create the new. I want to highlight this so much because it's so important right now, guys. You've got to find space. You've got to slow down your brainwaves and get out of beta mode, because that's survival. That's the conditioning. It only has memory to draw from. There's no creativity, and it's just running around trying to figure things out, trying to patch up holes in the ship that it created, and the ship keeps sinking. And maybe you patch up a couple holes, but then they burst again. And I'm telling you right now, years of your life will go by if you do not do something about this. And when I say do something, I'm telling you, create space. Lean into that wandering desert period and trust and develop an unshakable faith and knowingness that you are life itself. The divine is in you. You have everything that you need. And by virtue of you focusing on that and resting your awareness in that place, then everything that's meant for you comes to you. You are magnetic from that place, right? You're not hustling and grinding and fighting against reality anymore. You're flowing with the river, and you're taking aligned action. Right? I can tell you right now, this podcast that I'm doing, this YouTube video that I'm making, I've been in resistance to this. I got out of creator mode. I got into a survival pattern, and it was so deeply unconscious that I didn't even realize it. But yet the frustration was growing, and that expression was just dying to come out, and I wasn't giving it an outlet because I was stuck in planning and overanalyzing. And it felt like I was about to burst. It felt like my whole life was going to collapse, because I wasn't giving that an outlet. And that was my soul being like, hey, you're in that place again. You got to stop that. Okay? Turn the camera on, take the action, record the video, make the podcast episode. Okay? This is what matters. And I'm coming to you guys from the realest place that I can possibly be, because this is so deep in my heart, this stuff around survivalism, because it stole years of my life. It stole so much joy and shut down that beautiful child I know is inside of me. And I know what he feels like when he's here and he's feeling safe, and how good life can be from that place. And I look out into the world and I see so many people that are also stuck in that. right? And so if I'm not willing to go through that process, because there's layers of this, right? I've been through this process before. When I first created my business and I said, I'm going to start serving clients and I'm going to start doing this work with people and I'm going to start doing the psychedelic therapy, I'm going to start running retreats that are going to change people's lives, right? That was a beautiful, bold decision that I made. But when it came to taking the aligned action to allow that to take form, that was a whole other layer of fear that I had to overcome, and imposter syndrome and all these different things. To follow your heart, it's going to destroy every last part of you that's afraid. Your heart knows that this is where I want to go, and then everything in between, it's got to dissolve. Any part of you that is scared to do that, that's going to pump the brakes and try to avoid it and resist it and go into the distraction or the procrastination. All of those pieces have to die in order for your dreams to become realized. There's layers of this, right? You do that, you make it happen. I did that for years, got all these amazing clients, ran these retreats, and now there's another layer. As you go deeper, as you want to serve more, as God starts to ask more of you, now there's another layer of death you have to go through, right? And that doesn't stop, but the way that you approach it and your context behind it changes, so it's not as challenging, or it's not as crippling, right? Because it's like, oh, I've been through this before. This is another layer. Okay, cool. It still fucking sucks. And it's like, wow, you can fall asleep so easily. Wow, you can be hypnotized by the outside world so easily, especially when the collective energies in the planet are feeling very dense, as they are right now, because so many people are now being almost forced to go through this birth canal, right? A lot of layers. So that's why this channel, my coaching, the retreats that we do, this is all around helping people to pull themselves out of this place, out of the basement level, because I know it so well. And my heart is just like, it goes out to people who are in that place where they can't feel a sense of purpose, direction. They're feeling disconnected from life, from their soul. It's like, God, that's such a painful place to be. And I'll be fully honest with you guys, I've been in that for the last month. And the reason I'm able to pull myself out is because I've been through this process before. I've coached many people through this process, and I've had to learn how to get myself out of it, right? It looks like it's full-blown participation. You got to be with some of this stuff to deprogram, because it's so freaking deep and it's been in your ancestral line for so long. You got to go a little bit nuts here. You got to be waking up in the morning, prioritizing the meditation, looking yourself in the mirror, claiming your joy, claiming your peace, claiming your trust and your faith, putting on some music that puts you into your heart, going on walks, being in the body of the man or woman that you choose to be, the evolved you, the future you now, here. Walking is that. All the issues you've had, you're on the other side of it. You're teaching your body that elevated emotion. That's the kind of thing that you got to be almost obsessed about, right? Throughout your day, taking breaks to stop, tune in, breathe. 5 minutes of conscious breathing deeply, reminding yourself of who you are, anchoring that new identity so that the old one can't, in the shaky moments, come back in and be like, see, look, I told you, because it's going to do that. And if you're not meditating, that narrator's voice is going to be very loud and very strong and very convincing, and you're going to think it's you. I don't care how aware you are, how long you've been playing this game. I've been playing this game for a very long time, and that happens to me as well. The best of the best that happens to, right? But they know this is a time to lock the fuck in when that voice gets strong like that. You need to lock the fuck in, okay? Everything is here for you. Everything around you might be breaking down. You might be losing jobs. You might be ending relationships. And I want to say, yes, that's part of the process. Lean in, feel it all, trust. Let go of what needs to be let go of, okay? Because you got to love yourself enough to let these things go that are in alignment with your soul, with your heart, whatever that looks like. Take a big breath and let it go. There is so much that wants to be brought to you, but it isn't able to when you're holding on to an old frequency that's not a match to your soul and who you truly are. You've got to let it go, and you cannot be letting fear dictate your decisions, dictate the way that you talk to yourself, dictate the way that you think about life and the world around you. It is a revolutionary act to claim your joy and to reach inside of you and to hold your inner child and say, hey, I'm here and you're safe. That is a revolutionary act during these times, and you're going to need that. You're going to need to be the parent that little boy or girl never had, that teenager never had, that direction that he was looking for. You got to give that to him or her, right? And by the way, the you that's doing that, that's God, that's source. That's your soul. That has enough awareness to, when the child's feeling unsafe and feeling like they want to give up their power or they want to run back to the old way, they want to cling to safety and stay in that job that they hate that's been bleeding their life force, that part of you has to hold that child and say, hey, you're okay, you're safe. We don't have to go back to that. That part's over. The nightmare is over. You have to remind yourself that the nightmare is over. The light is coming onto the planet. It's activating and awakening inside of you. It's shining to all the dark places that held the fear, that held the distortion and the separation, and that frightened part of you has to will relax into the light of the soul, of the real you. All right. My intention is that my content and all these transmissions hit you in the deepest place, because you, my friend, are part of a revolution, an evolution, a completely changing stage of the planet, from Pisces to Aquarian, literally a whole new energy, a whole new game that we're playing, a new set of rules, which is life comes to you instead of you forcing and trying to survive your way through it, trying to mentally bulldoze your way through stuff. That's over, right? The opportunities you need are going to come to you when you start to prioritize finding the stillness, finding that place where you can connect to the divine inside of you. Because that's where you will remember. That's where the wisdom is. That's where you have everything that you need. I promise you that. That's where your nervous system gets regulated and you're not in this frantic, urgent fight or flight place all day. We've got to let that go. I had that for so long. That was, to me, chaos and, deadlines, like a college kid rushing to get his term paper in before midnight. I operated from that place forever because that was the way my nervous system knew how to get things done. It's like, we're not going to get stuff done in this world unless we're in that energy. And I had to reprogram it and say, that's not the way. We're going to create things from alignment. And even doing videos like this and even making that content from the awareness that I had, I would sit down at the computer or, with my phone to record stuff. And that energy, like that frantic energy of like, gotta get it done, gotta do this, would be there. And I'd have to take a deep breath and teach my body that's not the way anymore. We do these things from alignment. And it can be this really beautiful dance, this intimate dance with your love story, with your body, right? Like you're teaching and training your body that this is a beautiful love story where you talk to it. Your cells are listening, so you talk to it. You tell it what it needs to hear. You give it the love. You take care of it with hydration and good food. And you fill your conscious mind with things that expand the love in your body, the knowingness, the truth. You don't get lost in dopamine chasing, right? Because that can happen with spiritual wisdom. It's like when things start coming up, you can just listen to stuff that brings you back to baseline. But you got to feel that shit all the way. You can't distract yourself anymore. Okay? So I want, even though I'm creating content that could give that, I want to give you that feeling. Don't use it as a thing to not have to feel what you're going through, right? Receive the activation, receive the download, and then throughout your day, be that beautiful parent for yourself. Feel what you got to feel. Be present with it. That's the fastest way out. It's the only way out. We know this. There's so many different people saying this in different ways. I'm saying it in my own unique way, and I hope it landed in your heart. I love you guys. Stick around. Follow this journey. It's going to be very helpful. And I'm saying this from somebody who took such a massive dive into the world of survival, understanding it, feeling it in my body, seeing the layers of it. And if you need support on that, you tune into this, and then also come to our retreats. Dive in with the coaching, right? Expand beyond your old limitations around money, around holding on to things, hoarding, because the real you invests in you, right? It goes beyond the old limitations of, well, I don't have this or that. That's the lack that we're transcending. And it does shit in radical new ways that the old you would never do. Okay? So if you're in that place, let me know. Big love, everyone. We'll see you on episode 2.